and hear and listen and all the fun stuff this morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. Please welcome my very good friend, our managing editor of Korea Broadcasting Network News, the one and only Emil Lee. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Sock. Good morning to MP Duran. Good
Of
morning to
course,
our listeners.
yes, of course. Welcome to a member of Parliament, the Honorable Egbert Duran. Welcome, my friend. It's first time.
Yes, first time. Good morning to you, Dr. Sock, Emily, and a special good morning to the people of St. Martin and everyone that's tuned in.
Well, I'm glad you. I'm glad you. This. I can't believe it's been all these years. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
when you were a minister of Rami. I,
Rami, correct.
I remember going to all the press briefings,
Uh,
what I call BE before a meal, when I used to go. And so nice to have you face to face.
yes,
So
thanks for having me.
pleasure is all ours. You're quite welcome. So, what was the transition like for you from executive branch to legislative branch? Was that a difficult transition?
Well, let's go back. I'll start from the transition from the legislative branch first to the
True.
executive.
Okay.
Back in 2018, when I was elected, of course, I was there in Parliament for about a year and a half.
hmm
And then I transitioned over as a minister in 2019
hmm
as then Minister of Justice and acting Minister of VSR.
hmm
Everything sped up very quickly, because it's a whole different ball game. I would say Parliament is much slower than the executive branch. You just keep going, going, going.
hmm
There's literally never a dull moment, I would say.
Mhm.
And then going back into the legislative branch after being in the executive branch for 5 years, it was like a slowdown. And it took me about, I would say, a little over 6 7 months
hmm
to actually like adapt back, because you're like so anxious, and it's quite a challenge. I mean, some experience it different, of course, but when you're used to being on the go, on the go, on the go, and everything like slows down, it takes a bit of getting used to.
Wait,
But must say that I'm settled in Parliament now, in the sense of it's no longer a bother.
yeah, I would imagine that if you are a doer, right,
Yes, exactly.
and you're used to executing,
Mhm.
that coming back to Parliament it takes a while. It must
Yeah,
take a while.
it take a while. It took me
Yeah,
about, I would say, about a half a year
yeah,
to transition back, and then get back into the flow of
and
of
Actually,
the
one
number.
of the pieces of advice that I got when I came out as a minister was take time to detox. You
Ah,
actually really
yes,
need to sort of cleanse and sort of let things go. And so it's interesting.
yeah, it
yeah.
is.
I,
That's a
and
good way to put it. Indeed, detox. Yeah, yeah.
where do you find where do you view, because you were Vrami, you were Justice, you were via where do you find your strong suit? Where do you say where in your mind, where's your skill set?
I would say, of course, my family has a long history in the justice chain,
hmm
so I was quite passionate about justice, still passionate about it, but I must say, being part of the ministry of Rumi and leading that ministry, it was a great experience, because there's really never a dull moment, from the good times to the not so good times, and you learn from it all. And I must say that in that ministry, I definitely interacted with a lot more individuals. And what I take from that is the results. The results in getting things done. One of the first things that we were able to accomplish when going into office was the completion of the hurricane shelters.
hmm
And that was something that, I hammered a lot in Parliament to see it come, because we knew what happened in 2017. We weren't really prepared. I mean, because we had
hmm
such a long time without having such a big threat, so to speak. So going over that was one of the things that I really wanted to push, and getting that completed was a great feeling for me.
Do you
One
still
of
have your contacts within the ministry? I mean, you still interact on an informal basis?
Yeah, because people still reach out to me. Hey, I have this issue. I have that issue. Whether they email me, WhatsApp me, and then I would like guide them in the direction. Sometimes even connect them
So,
with staff and so.
so I'm going to ask you. I'm hearing anecdotally, right? So I'm hearing through the community. I'm very connected with the construction sector as well. Um, Frustration with building permits, time taking that it takes for approvals. I know somebody, he's been working on a project, and now only after a long wait. They finally come back with, you need to make these adjustments. So it's very frustrating that, if the time it takes for approval. And I have a friend who is trying to build a house. Alls they need is a verification of address, right? Because it's a building lot,
Correct.
it's a new lot.
Yeah.
They just need to verify the address so that they can get a temporary meter for
Yeah.
construction. Months and months and months, right? So, and then, and I'm saying anecdotally, I have zero proof, but I'm hearing that people are saying, look, you just need to pay. If you don't pay, things aren't getting done. So I'm not asking you to say if that's
No.
true or not, but are you hearing that the time that it takes to approve things through VROMI has increased since the time you were there?
Most definitely. I mean, that's one of the main concerns. I even I speak about it every time I go on the floor. The reason I can't give the reason exactly, but one of the things behind it is that when you how to put it, when you've had so many different opinions on a particular setup, I would say, and now I'm going to go at the party that currently controls the ministry, which is the PFP. They've always talked about stopping development and slowing down and stopping, basically stopping. They're anti-development, if you ask me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, once you sit in that seat as a minister, especially as a minister, you can't really be anti anything because you represent everyone. Now, you might agree with something and I might not agree with it, but the goal is to find the middle ground. So if you ask
Well,
me,
that's governing.
yeah,
Right?
that's governing.
That's governing.
So if you
right?
ask me, they've found a way to systematically put a building stop without putting a building stop. So doing it
But for me,
without actually
that's
openly saying it.
that's not fair, right? If
And
you're going to
that,
say,
yeah,
look,
yeah.
here you can't build anything,
Yes.
make it clear.
Yeah, make it clear, and that,
Say,
and not
don't
only,
make me waste
yes,
my time
exactly.
making drawings and
Yes,
plans.
because
Okay, well,
I can say this. When you go back to 2023, that was my last full year in office, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you run the numbers based on the estimated construction costs for that year, it was about 255 million guilders.
Mm-hmm.
For people that don't know what's estimated construction cost, so that is every building permit that is submitted, you have to put the estimate how much it's gonna cost to build, and when you're done with that, we add it up on a yearly basis. In 2022, it was about 245 million guilders. Then it increased about 11 million guilders a year after that. Now, in 2024, which was I had 5 months in office, well, 4 months actually, January, February, March, and April.
I'm 24.
Yeah, 24. And then when you add up that year, so let's say the new government, the Messalina one cabinet came in after that, when you add up the estimated construction value for that year, it dropped to about 143 million guilders.
And
so that's 100 million guilders drop.
Look, I will say, I think St. Martin needs to have a conversation about what's too much.
Correct.
Right? Is there?
Agreed.
That's a whole different
Yes.
topic, right?
But
But-
make that a transparent conversation.
Yeah, make it open, because it can't
Right.
be that Emil can get through and
Right.
Jurendi can't, because that is what is happening.
Right.
You're talking about some people getting through. I can give you, I know of, for instance, where the whole civil works permit discussion came up, where some people, the minister said on the floor of Parliament about a year ago, every permit requires a civil works permit, and basically said that the ministry didn't know how to interpret the law for all these years. I reenacted that law in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. And since then, he's saying the ministry has been applying it bad. Now, when you talk about the ministry, you're indirectly trying to say the former minister, but you're talking about the staff that are still there
Civil
working
servants, right?
for you.
Right.
So then my thing to that was then, and I asked it last week, even in a meeting when they introduced the nature policy, it cannot be that I'm going to require Mr. Sock to do it and Emily doesn't have to do it, because that is what taking place. And because he mentioned it, everyone requires it, then it should be a prerequisite for everyone. But right now, we have many different projects taking place and they don't have civil works permit. So if the minister, or maybe whether his cabinet don't like a particular project, then they have to go and shut it down. But then for others, no.
To,
And
to,
that
to,
I don't.
to, to
I
help
don't
our
agree.
listeners understand, when you say a civil works permit,
Yes.
what exactly is a
A
civil
civil
work?
works permit. Let's say for instance, uh, okay, let me
I
give an
want I
example.
want I
Let's say
want
your house is damaged, right? Let's
right.
say your house is damaged and you have to demolish it.
Mhm.
You would require a civil works permit to do the demolition.
Mhm.
Excavation for a new house as
Excavation,
well.
profound. They call it profound works. Well, actually, I wouldn't say excavation for a new house. Why I don't agree with that, and why we've been applying it like that, is because if you have a building permit, in our interpretation, I say our during my period and
Mhm.
during when I was
Mhm.
working in the advisors at the time, you get a building permit, so therefore it already includes
The
the
excavation and the
excavation
civil work you
and
have
the
to do.
civil work. But if you have a building there before, you do need to present a demolition plan.
Right.
You know, you need to say, this is how I'm gonna do it. Especially, let's say if it's in a, let's just give an example, front street or back street where tight areas, you know, the timing needs to be clear. Let's say you need to do it in the evening hours. So those things are normal when you give a plan. But
Right.
to say you require a whole separate civil works permit in order to dig your foundation, part of building your house is digging your foundation, which is all described in your plan and your building permit request.
So I want to go back a little bit, and you had talked about a personal experience that you had. I want to share a personal experience that I had, and
Sure.
this, I think, goes back to the time you were the minister.
Yeah.
I live in Simpson Bay Village.
Yeah.
And my house is long lease land, like most of Simpson Bay Village. And I'm one of the early ones from the 1960s, right? So the
Wow.
renewal was up in June of 24.
2024.
Yeah, 2024. And I knew that things were going to take time. And the funny part, and I wasn't planning to go anywhere with this. I just happened to have my file sitting on the pile because I just got the decree last Friday. It was submitted, the original request, we submitted the long list expired in June of 24. On February 2nd, February 3rd of, it's either a 2 or a 3 of 22, we submitted
February
the
3rd.
yeah, 2 3, yeah.
Okay.
February 3rd of 2022, we submitted the request for the long lease renewal with all the documentation, knowing that it was going to take some time, and we emailed, we followed up. So 2022, and the only reason I have the folder is that I literally got we're now pulling everything out to go to the notary to do the work. Then in February 8 of 24, they wrote another letter and saying, hey, where is this? And it's only, yeah, February 8, 24 was the follow up, and it's only just last
Week.
January 6th, 2026 that I got the decree. And I'm going, there's something systematically and structurally wrong.
And MP,
for sure.
isn't this basically a formality? Isn't this? I mean, because there's a house there. He's been living there forever. I mean,
it is a formality. That case is very rare, I must say. But what I can do, sometimes somebody would bill a piece extra, right? And it requires a site inspection, but in no way, shape, or form should it take so long. That is unheard of. However, I must say, the Department of Domain Affairs has been, let me put it like one of those less good situations where, let's say, it was very severely understaffed. The whole structure of the department is wrong. Let me start with that, and then I'll go into the details of the real situation. You have a department head, you have a senior advisor, you have a policy advisor, and you have three, what do you call, administrative assistants. It has to be the other way around. You need three senior advisors, one policy advisor, and one administrative assistant, or even more than three senior advisors, because the workload is so heavy. And remember, all those decrees that, because remember in the 1960s or 70s is when they started to issue long lists.
Yeah, 1962
was maybe the first, and all of them start to expire at the same time. So what you had is an overwhelming influx of documentation, and you have to go through the documentation thoroughly, because any mistake, any word, let's give an example, dot and con meaning moot and can. So must and could.
Right.
You know,
Mm.
it is a whole different meaning if I say you must request permission or you could request permission. I'll go right back to those words soon to
Yeah.
give a story behind that. But a lot of those scenarios took place. And then we had no department head. Because remember, let's go back to 2018. Mr. Peterson was the acting department head when Minister Waver was the 2020, sorry. Minister Waver was the minister at the time. Then I took over right after him.
Mm.
Peterson went to be a member of parliament. And then you had the SG was acting head and also acting head for inspection. So it creates a realm for, I'm going to say it in all, speaking here, misconduct. Because you have one person, not only misconduct and also mistakes, a lot of room for error. Because you have multiple people, one person
There's a big
doing
difference though
multiple
between
functions.
there's a big difference between
miscon-
misconduct and mistakes.
No, I'm gonna give you the example on the misconduct.
okay.
I knew why I said that. You remember the whole Alegria situation
Mm-hmm.
where the SG at the time was also the acting head of domain affairs, where commitments were made by the SG at the time with this firm, well, the Alegria group, outside of the purview or outside of the permission of the minister, which was me at the time. So I'm saying all that to say, if there was a head there, that would have created then a bridge for a second or third pair of eyes, or however you want to put it, and you have a sort of a control mechanism. But what has happened over the years is that in government, you appoint one person to do multiple functions, and it creates room for error, and it also creates room for misconduct, as I mentioned just now. So in the domain affairs department, they were severely understaffed. The whole structure is wrong, and still it shouldn't take so long. But again, sometimes the administration setup is very bad as well. And I'm just being honest.
Mm-hmm.
When we made great efforts to try to digitalize, a lot of pushback, a lot of kickback. Up to today, it isn't done because people like things on paper or in ways that this could be lost in order to, it lessens the control. Let me put it like that.
Well,
and I'm just speaking frank to you.
Well, this is why the whole thing that I wasn't planning on going
No,
here
but it's
with
good. You know why it's good? Because
If it
now
happened to
somebody's
me-
listening,
Yeah.
and maybe it mightn't happen again. Let's just
Well,
put
that's
it
the
like
whole
that.
idea. That's
Yeah,
why I
so-
bring it up because we need to fix this because it screams to me that there's a systemic problem somewhere. If it takes 4 years to get a long lease renewal,
And imagine if, let's say, for instance, the receivers then would stop collecting you because they don't know where to apply it to because the lease is expired, and then they put it in the prepaid, and then when you go have another issue, then it's another issue there. So we have a whole systematic administrative issue.
so I'll share
But
this.
let's- we gotta-
one more thing I want to since you went. This is really interesting.
Yeah.
So when I bought the property in 2015, I went in and paid the long lease in full through 2024. And every year I would get a bill and I would have to go down and say, okay, take this out
You
of
see?
prepaid
You see?
and apply it to the bill.
You see?
And then after the long lease expired, I still got a bill for 2025 at the old rate, which I paid. But I know that this is going to be another
Yeah, because
mess.
they're gonna come and tell you that no, the
Yeah.
rate went up after the renewal, etc.
which
and
just
then-
came yesterday.
And imagine that, and then it's gonna be as if you did something wrong. And
Right.
you know, when you come, I'll give an example. I don't know if you saw yesterday or today. My colleague put out an article on some civil service being overtaxed at 47.5%.
Mhm.
Because one time they get a lump sum payment, and then they continue for almost 2 years now being taxed at that rate, which is not normal. And maybe if you don't pay attention, you won't know, or you would complain, but then it falls on deaf ears. You have a situation right now on this island where, let's say you're a senior citizen, you retire, you're a taxi driver, and maybe you have 2 apartments,
Mhm.
and so forth. So you're trying to find a way to sustain yourself, right? Which is normal, but you should be able to thrive in your own country. But then you're being taxed so high because you have what they call extra income. So your pension maybe is $1,800 You work as a taxi driver and you're collecting $800 for 2 apartments, so $1,600 a month. Because of that now, they put you in this high bracket to avoid. So for me, how I looking at it is as a citizen and also as a representative of the people, the system is designed for you to stay poor because it's the government that is taxing you. So we need to be
Our tax rates are way too high.
yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying. So you're not allowed to thrive. You're not allowed to be successful. So you create a gap where it's really rich and really poor, and that is what is wiping out the middle class and causing a lot of issues today.
I want to touch on a couple topics. I find it very interesting. The Minister of Romy has come out and talked about how there's now a plan to close off the dump, right? They're going to seal it off, right? But they don't know where a new dump will be. So I find that really kind of crazy. It's like you're going to demolish your house, but you don't know where you're going to move, right?
One thing I can say, ultimately the goal is to close the dump, right? But what I've seen, and I could say this, let's say it with your chest, and I'm not knocking anyone, but I'm just speaking the facts and hope that it can wake up some spirit or someone to get the ball rolling. I haven't seen one new idea come out of the Ministry of Romy. Nothing new, nothing new. Like, for instance, I'll talk about road works. There's so many funds in there for that. The minister came out and spoke about charging people to go on the dump. They just mention things and then it disappears and then you don't hear about it again. And
Right.
then that is continuous, and I would say almost across the board in all ministries.
But don't you think it's kind of crazy to
To
plan?
just say you're gonna do something,
You're
but
gonna-
no idea with it. And I think there was also at Bel Air there was a session where persons asked the same question that you were asking. We ain't sure yet. You can't say you're gonna do something and don't have a plan as to how, where, and what. Let's say the housing project, right? 1,200 homes in 10 years. Ambitious, great, we need it. But nowhere states this is where I'm gonna start. This is the trajectory. Nothing. Just
Funding.
1,200 funding. No, 1,200 homes for 10 years. Guess what? And I told somebody the other day, I said, I hope I'm wrong, but there's not going to be one home built in this term. What's going to happen is, close to the end of the term, 2027, if they last that long, which I hope they do, end of the term, 2027, you're going to see a groundbreaking, and that's going to be it. Maybe they try to put some concrete to look like they're building a foundation on a road leading to, and that's it. Because we've seen it with the marketplace. So that's not me making up anything. That's just a reality. When I left office, the whole Vineyard Heights over the bank situation, they tried to create a whole negative twist to it. This was a project geared towards the same middle class that I'm talking about, because you have people that live in Belvedere and so forth that they don't really need social housing. They're there because they can't afford anything else. And based on that, you know, try to create an opportunity. We went by 4 major banks on the island. We did our studies. We found out was the common salary, what it would require for somebody to qualify for a loan. We put a whole plan together that is still there. We came with the whole Vineyard Heights proposal, brought it to Parliament to present it. I think it was in the budget debate of 2021, if I'm not mistaken. And they bring a motion to stop me from acting, and then they brought in the ombudsman and do the whole show. It had a court case at the time. I won the court case in September of 2023. Clear, the land belongs to government. Minister, you can act accordingly. But then 2023 September, we're election in January, and that's how the cookie crumbled. And here we are now, another January, where the groundbreaking can take place, the work can start there, and you could help not 150 people, 150 plus families to own their own home. The land is there, the plan is there, and it was a public-private partnership where you partner with someone to do the infrastructure. You give them whether a couple thousand square meters in exchange, because we don't, and then government isn't looking to make any money off of it. The plan is to allow you to own your own home. We had clause in there that we were going to put in the deed where you're not allowed to sell the home for the first 10 years, because you have to protect people from themselves in a sense. Because if you get an opportunity to own something really cheap, you know how it goes, and somebody come, a millionaire come or so, and buy up everything, and then we're back to square one in dealing with our people from a social perspective. So all those things were put in place. It's still there, and there's no action to it. So that's something tangible where you can say, hey, I can pick this up tomorrow and I can tell you where I'm going to build a house. I can tell you how I'm going to fund it, and I can tell you who can afford it. But I guess it's not going to be done because Duran came with the plan and it's there. But guess what? It wasn't only my plan. Every manager from the infrastructure department, the domain affairs, new works department, also staff play a pivotal role in bringing that to reality. So look at it as a St. Martin project and get it off the ground.
Let's touch real quickly on traffic. I mean, this is a
Ooh.
topic
Let,
everybody.
let me do this. Let me clear our next commercial break. We'll come back and we'll use traffic as our close. So sit tight. 8:48. More with Member of Parliament, the Right Honourable Egbert Duran, and of course, BLE St. Martin Insights, news that matters to you. Welcome back to the program. My name is Dr. Salk. This is Fresh Air in the Morning. Of course, my dear friend Emil Lee, the host of St. Martin Insights News That Matters to You, our managing editor of the news part of our business, is here along with our special guest, Member of Parliament, the Honourable Egbert Duran. Welcome back, gentlemen. Traffic.
So and we were talking about this before we went on the air, Salk.
When Pedro was in, we were having from budget.
And the problem with the traffic, and some people say it's the same as every year, but this year feels worse. But the problem with it is it's unpredictable, right? One thing happens and then traffic backs up, right? So now you need to allocate time as if you're going to be sitting in traffic. So you have to say, if I'm going from point A to B, I need to assume it's an hour. And then maybe there's no traffic and then you're there, 45 minutes early. So either way, you end up losing time, right? So
Time is money.
So I don't think there's anyone who will disagree
Correct.
that traffic is a problem. So let's break it down bit by bit. We got all excited when all these potholes were circled with white paint, right? Some got filled, and
Not
a lot
well.
of others,
Not
the white
well.
paint is
Disappeared
fading
and
away.
they can put
And
more white paint now again.
so, I mean, you don't need to be a genius to figure out if the road network is bad and full of potholes, that's going to slow down traffic, right? Any ideas? There must be budget for it. Why are the potholes, even if it's not a best quality patch, but at least patch it to get us through the busy season? Why isn't it being done?
I don't know why it's not being done. I remember, I think it was about a month ago, a little over a month ago, I sent out a press release saying that, I find it strange that I don't see the guys from the Vrummy yard, because the Vrummy have the crew, the maintenance crew, I would call them, that they would deal with like patches and different things. We got this material, Aquafalt, that we discovered, I think, in 2022, where it's like a sort of, you mix it with the water, and it's a pretty good solution for quick fixes with the road patching, right? That didn't take place. So what happened is you had so much built up, and at a point it had so many potholes all over that it was out of control. The day after that press release, the next day I saw the ministry active in terms of circling the potholes. When I left office, I left over 10 million guilders there for roadworks from the capital expenditure budget. Just to put it in perspective,
For maintenance or for new roads?
for road maintenance.
Okay.
And then the budget for the new roads was about 4 million. But those are the side roads, not the main road. Those are the like in different areas around the island. I know you noticed in the last year and a half, all those side roads that were paved. The idea behind the concept behind the side road project was to alleviate, because sometimes, especially in cold weather in different areas, once it rains from the dirt road, the rocks and everything come into the road, damage the road, etc., etc. So if we pave about 25, 30 meters inwards, it would then alleviate that issue and then help us to preserve our roads longer. This is the first time that a project like that took place on the island. I always say, God bless, I got to sign it off right before I left. It started right after I left, but because the current administration, they slowed it down completely. I think they stopped it for about 6 months, and then it started back. It's still not even completed yet, and this is something that had to be completed over a year and a half ago. So just to put it in perspective, and it was signed and the budget was there. I call out the minister on the point that there's currently over 2 million guilders still in the budget left from that budget that was left there for roads. Why isn't Windward Roads, which is the only company that has a asphalt plant on the island, or any company busy fixing the roads? It's not happening. And then sometimes you hear, oh, they're busy, they this, but that has nothing to do with you. Your sole responsibility has to be the safeguarding of our road network. My first road that I wanted to do was from Abu Ghazi Shwama in Madam Estate, go straight back through Arch Road, because that road is terrible. Now, if that road is fixed, that would alleviate some traffic. Even on Kanagita Street, you see where there are some major potholes close to Pollo Hermanos in the area there. And then what they do instead of creating new roads, I still don't get it. They make a road one way.
I have to be honest, I don't understand.
I've never seen that, because we're now trying to find ways to create new roads, and the minister is taking away roads. I've never seen something like that, because right now what you do, you put so much pressure on Pondfield, it's not even funny. Because now to get into town, you maybe have to see if you get a chance to go through Front Street, but if you have a ship in, don't waste your time trying to go there because it's going to be blocked. Then everybody going to Pondfield now, coming in, coming out. Man, listen, I still haven't gotten the logic on that. I know for a fact, and I can say it was brought to me several times, and I consulted with advisors, and it was like, no, I don't see how it makes sense. Now, instead of alleviating and creating a new pathway, they make it one way, and now we're feeling the effects of it now.
I think I think one of the things that we really need to focus on, right? Besides fixing the potholes on the roads that we already have. If you look back at the way we do road construction here, and I spent some time in the business way back when, um, and I look at the way what's under the asphalt
Yes.
and the drainage and the process that goes down underneath and how deep the gravel is under the road
Correct.
that really makes that road stand the test of time. And the last time we really did a road properly, in my opinion, on this island is probably when we did the stretch of Welfare Road up to the roundabout. Remember and going up over the hill. Remember that whole stretch down in front of where Motor World is, where they ripped everything out, and we lived through the drainage and everything under it. That was probably the last time we did something major and did it the right way, because that road is what, 10 years old now, maybe even older.
To me, the best road. Think about it. The best roads in St. Martin right now is the same road you mentioned, Oyster Pond Road and Colby Hill.
Yeah.
You don't see no potholes in those roads.
And Colby Hill has, other than one little bit of a sinkhole at the top,
once,
which can happen, which is normal.
Yeah, correct.
So it seems to me that we really need to rethink the way that we make roads and come up with some real standards. The other thing,
something sustainable.
The other thing I would say to you is, when, and we've done it in this interview, right? We have made things adversarial from a political perspective. It would seem to me that we need to create a way where you have a new minister coming in, I don't care what party they're from, and you have an old minister going out, that we need to figure out a way that there is almost like the Minister of Rami's club, where the living former ministers are all part of the advisors to, kind of unofficially to the sitting minister. And it's like the president's club in the United States before we are where we are now in the United States, and we won't go there.
I remember when the question was asked in the Council of Ministers by former Prime Minister Jacobs at the time, who is willing to give advice and do a transition meeting. I think it was the current Prime Minister, Luke Marcelino, requested a transition meeting that all ministers would meet with each other and have which is something that has never happened before. And I found it to be a great initiative. I agreed to that meeting. I agreed to the meeting, asked, okay, when it's going to be, and then it was never followed up. So for me, I think it was just a show. We're neither here nor there because it passed already. When this current minister came in, now and then, he would reach out and say, hey, listen, what about this? What about the mortgage guarantee fund? What about the road fund? And I would respond, always give all the information that is necessary. But what I do find a bit, and even up to a couple days ago, he asked me, hey, listen, can you please send me your questions in writing? No problem. Because again, it's not, in my mind, Dr. Sack, it's not a me against you thing. But if I have to go to from a public perspective, the minister has attacked me, attacked my name, mentioned things that was not correct in terms of permits that were signed and all those things, and mentioned that I put St. Martin in a funny situation with 1 or 2 court cases. And just to put it in perspective for the people that are listening, if you go to court and you don't give a defense, and you say on the floor of Parliament from in advance, we're going to lose this court case next month, we expect to lose it, what do you think going to happen? You think the judges don't read the newspaper? You think they don't watch what's happening? So if the minister that is supposed to defend a case goes against it, what do you think will happen? So I'm saying all that to say, I've seen a lot of cases in the Ministry of Rami being, I would say, deliberately forfeited in a sense. And then the discussion would be, oh, you see the former minister make us lose a case. Well, you see in the docket, no evidence was presented. And even some cases, you see the minister agree with the plaintiff. So again, I'm saying all that to say, I see the bigger picture. I've been in the game. I mean, the minister is new in the political arena, I would say. His first 2 years now. I've been in the arena for about 8 years. I've experienced the older generation. I could say I've experienced a transition, so to speak, because when I went in, it was still the William, the Frankie, the France, the Teo. that older generation, and I'm now living through the transition.
Mhm.
So I'm saying all that to say, I understand the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is not about me and you, and it should not be about egos. It's about getting our country where it needs to be. And in my humble opinion, right now at this crossroad where we're at, we either can go really good or really bad. And I don't see it right now going really good. I think there's a need now for whether they use the word a national government or whatever. I don't have to be in government, but let us now share our ideas to get this country where it needs to be. Right now, you're talking about bringing a budget amendment for 2025 in March of 2026.
Well, that's just a
No,
waste of time.
no,
It's a
no,
waste
no.
of my money. It's a waste of the taxpayers' money.
It's
Done.
absurd. It's unheard of. And then you're talking about bringing the 2026 budget sometime before after the summer. So you're so not even. I don't feel the urgency in it. And I'm saying to myself, how is this like okay? I would be embarrassed.
Well,
to
listen,
actually
real
mention
business,
that.
real business can't work this way.
No, and that in itself is causing us now to be stagnant. I was just explaining off air where let's say if you request a meeting now about a pressing issue, and the meeting is held 4 months from now, it's no longer the problem already happened, manifested, and maybe even resolved, but it could have been resolved earlier if it was taken seriously. So it is crippling us as members of parliament, representatives of the people, to even function. And I could say this, I feel like I can't function properly right now the way parliament is being managed.
Do me a favor. Promise me you'll come back and send another hour with
No,
us.
for sure, for sure.
Now you know where we are.
Yeah, no, I know where
Now
you're
you
at.
are. We have each other's numbers, and
Yes.
it has been our pleasure to have you this morning, MP.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming in, and Emil, thank you so much, sir, for
No,
another great
always
edition
a
of
pleasure.
St. Martin Insights, news that matters to you. It is currently 9:04. Marine and tropical weather update on the way is always brought to you by K Beach Club and Restaurant. K like character, then the Bob Marley, Jimmy Buffett moment, brought to you by Toppers, and then we'll see where we go next. You never know.